So good afternoon. My name is Joshua Anton. I'm a graduate of Northern Virginia Community College and a student at the University of Virginia. And today, I'm here to talk to you about the great college race we're about to run. How many of you guys and gals in this room are college students? Please raise your hand. Or sorry, will be college students in 6 months to a year. Please raise your hands. Okay, one. How many students in here will be college students in about a year to a year and a half? Please raise your hands. Okay. How many of you guys and gals in here are going to be college students someday? Okay, we got more. And I'm sure there are many college graduates in here in this room today, right? Give me a hoo-ah?
Hoo-ah!
All right. So in today's seminar, I'm going to give you my college story. Or really 3 stories. 3 different periods in my life as I ran the college race, as many of you guys and gals in this room will run today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is my high school to college transition, and how I managed and transitioned from a special education student to a student at Northern Virginia Community College. The second story I'm going to tell today is essentially what I realized and what I got from my community college experience, that aha moment. And then finally, I'm going to talk about my experience as a current 4th year at the University of Virginia, someone who is graduating in about 4 to 5 months. So, where I started my college race, very different. I look like Harry Potter. I can actually dress up like McLovin and go trick-or-treat. So imagine tomorrow. You're all 18 years old. Tomorrow, you are in charge of your family, or yourself, your food, your shelter, your clothing, your mobile phone, electricity, all of that stuff. Every one of you guys and gals in this room are adults. And you've just been kicked out of your house as a senior in high school. Not to mention, you're about to have to work about 30 to 40 hours a week, so you can make pretty much about 600 to at least 1,000, so you can suffice yourself, so you can pay all of these bills. And you have to attend school full-time as a senior in high school. Plus, you have to figure out how you're going to pay for college in about 6 months. And finally, you have the option to go to Northern Virginia Community College and the amazing George Mason University. What would you do? Unfortunately, that happened to me in 2009 on February 10th, the day after I turned 18. I was angry and sad because, you don't wake up the next day and say, hey, this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I was just kicked out of my house. No, you're upset, naturally. You're uncertain and scared because the scariest thing in the world is not having your parents wake you up, not having your parents tell you to go to school, not having your parents, push you to try to get the job after school. You feel alone. You're kind of lonely. I was very blessed because my best friend's mother took me in that day, and I've lived with a Liberian family for the last 4.5 years, and she's just been an amazing mother-like figure. But I still had to pay rent. I still had to figure out how I was going to go to college. I had to work because at the end of the day, I was a adult. She wouldn't let me, sit down and just, twiddle my thumbs. It's a scary feeling. That's where I started my college race. Now, the 3 things that I went through that were really hard in my high school to college career transition was, first, I had no idea how I was going to pay for college. GMU, just tuition, forget even living here, can be around $10,000 to $12,000. Nova, per year, can be $2,500 to $4,000 if you go on full-time for both of those for about 15 credits each. I didn't have that necessarily sitting in the bank that I could spend. First thing I had to do was figure out how I was going to pay for college. I didn't know how to manage my ADHD. Weird fact, but I never studied in high school. I would read a manga all day. I was a huge anime fanatic. I don't know how many of you guys are anime fans. All right, you're cool. I only studied for 2 exams, 2 being in Spanish, so yo puedo hablar español, and only 1 in algebra 2. It was when I went to college, I took economics classes, IT classes, pre-calculus, and I had to study. In fact, 2 days into the class, I had no idea what to do because I couldn't read the textbook. And for the first time in my life, ADHD really affected my academics. And then finally, time management. I mean, it's hard to manage, at that time, 3 jobs, working at the Giant Food, the Herman Law Firm, and also working as a work-study student in the game room, plus taking 13 credits of classes. That's just difficult. Those were what I went through when I transitioned from high school to community college. And I think my first lesson from my first story today is ask for help. Sure, for me, I wouldn't have known that I could apply as an unaccompanied youth and how to fill out the financial aid form had it not been for being a Pathways to the Baccalaureate student and them walking me through that process. Or Mary Jo Connors, my transition and career counselor, who showed me different resources that were available and would sit down with me every few days just to see how everything was going, because it was a really hard time in my life. I wouldn't have known how to manage my time had I not sat down with my Pathways counselor and literally in her room I asked, because I took a college success course and they went over in one of their courses how to do a time management chart. So I asked her, could you help me customize one to my life that is 3 jobs, full-time classes, and hopefully having maybe a day or 2 of a social life. And she worked with me on how to build that. And I still use a variation of that today through my iPad notes. And finally, to manage my ADHD, I really don't have an extravagant person I talk to, except Google's pretty cool, and so is YouTube. That's how I learned how to manage it. I realized that I couldn't sit and read those textbooks and try to read them and get the material. In fact, I would fall asleep literally within 10 or 20 minutes. In fact, the high school textbooks, they get more boring as you go into college. I realized that I had to basically mark up the textbook. I then had to type up the notes on mark up the textbook, write about the textbook, type up what I wrote, and then find some poor soul to lecture them to for about an hour about philosophy or economics, so someone was getting a good teaching. And that's how I learned how to take good exams. And I came out my first semester with a 4.0. The greatest part about it wasn't that I got the 4.0, is that I was struggling that first 4 weeks, and I was like, oh my God, I worked so hard for this. And there was some I was on the borderline. I'm talking about, like, I think teachers may have felt pity. I was like 89.5, 89.6, you know, that's a rounding error right there. My point to you today is that in many of in your life, but in your college career, you're going to go through times that you may not know what you want to do. You may not know what class you're supposed to take. You may just be scared in general because high school to college is a huge thing, especially being 18 years old. What you need to do is, if you have that problem or if you have that uncertainty, ask someone. Ask for help. I'm very fortunate, I'm very grateful because I have, I would say, an entourage. I don't want to put a fancy word to it, but I have great mentors around me that I can ask questions to when I don't know the answer. And even today, being a 4th-year student at the business school, there are like a million more things I don't know the answer to. And whenever I'm doing an assignment, I will sit down with my teacher, make sure it doesn't go against the honor code, of course, and say, hey, what do you think about this idea for my marketing assignment? What do you think about this idea as I'm creating this financial sheet for class? And they'll sit down and help. Ask for help, because at the end of the day, none of us knows everything in the world. We need those people around us, those mentors that can really kind of facilitate us along the way. That's the point of my first story.